Pod Blast with yet another amazing guest, a very talented lady in theatre, television, film, Katy Manning. Nice to see you.
I would, but somebody's. Oh, there it is. No, it was a big thing. You know how nowadays you have to, everything you do, you have to buy the cookies, see the cookies. Yeah. This one's do I agree with. I'm thinking, what do? I can't see you. And then I went, wait, and I scroll down. It says, got it or get it. Good. I got it.
Good. I prefer eating the cookies, Katy. You know, so a nice hot cup of tea. You know, so
I have got to love it. And I have to say, for anybody who might think that's funny, why has she got such a crooked smile? I was eating a Rolo pudding very hurriedly, and I bit the inside of one side of my. So every now and again, it will look like this.
Brilliant. So, what was going to say here, right? You're born in Guildford, weren't you?
I was born in Guildford in a convent. Not that it's a religion with us; it's just where my mother managed to drop me, not literally. And in a room which my father couldn't inaptly name, in a place called the Manger. That was the room I was born in, the Manger.
Wasn't it? It wasn't December the 25th by any chance, was it?
No, darling. There's no similarities there at all.
But I mean, obviously, like people obviously know you for being in Doctor Who and stuff. But you attended drama school, didn't you? You did some theatre and stuff, didn't you?
Not really. No. I came back from the States where I had been offered a 5-year contract with MGM, right? Which I hadn't been looking for. It was just my sister was a top model with Eileen Ford in New York. My sister was 5'11". I'm missed out by 11 inches. So I always looked up to my big sister. There was no choice. And she was stunning. My father had said to me, he said, well, darling, if you want to pursue this, if you do 5 years, you can either be stuck for 5 years and do nothing. You can do one film and you're still stuck with them for 5 years. There's nothing, there's no way out. But you can also, because, it's your choice. It's my life, And I was very young and they had to fly my parents out there to have all this discussion. Anyway, I'd never really thought about acting. I'd been a dancer. I'd never really thought about, everybody else said, we always knew. I didn't. And one day I sort of woke up and I thought, I'd like to do this. And so I thought, I'll write to all the drama schools, and whichever one takes me first gets me. And so I ended up at Webber Douglas, where a lot of they like to have slightly odd people there. They kind of went for the outsiders rather than Terence Stamp. A lot of people went to drama school, and Nicola Bryant also, who was also born in the same convent as I was in Guildford. So I went there and I was there for 2 years, because in those days, darling, 15 people could be accepted and 3 would come out at the end of the terms. It was not, we weren't told we were brilliant and wonderful and hugely talented. We were told we were pretty rubbish, but keep going and keep learning. And I'd grown up in this with a huge amount of major stars around me. So I'd seen all of this and much more. I mean, I had an extraordinary life on that level. And my early life surrounded by very famous sports people, but I certainly wasn't going into sports with my eyesight. I'd be standing there with a tennis racket and the ball would go, and I'd still be looking for it.
But I mean,
so I decided to go there. And I went there, and I was a bit naughty because I hadn't been to a school with lots of kids. So suddenly being surrounded by people, I don't know, makes me naughty. But they said the moment you actually work everything changes. I just wasn't very good at sitting in classrooms. Anyway, so I stayed there, and then I came out. I was actually up for something. One of the teachers there was also a director and a producer, and put me up for something for television. I basically went straight into television with Softly Softly.
Mm-hmm.
No, I wasn't a theatre child.
All right.
In fact, when it came to doing theatre, Douglas Camfield said, "Don't do it." And I said, "Why?" He said, "A lot of people shouting in long shot." But, you know, I love theatre, but no, it's not where I started. I started in television and continued through for some years before I did my first stage play. And I was at the Edinburgh Festival. During the day, I was doing an arts and crafts program that went out on Sunday for the BBC called Serendipity. So I'm teaching people how to work in epoxy resins and all that. Right? This myopic woman with great big thick glasses showing people how to make stuff.
Now you know Edinburgh's my home city. Did you enjoy the experience of being in Edinburgh?
I did, but when I first went there, it basically was the Traverse and a few other bits and pieces. But it, you know, compared to how when I've been back there to work many years, I love Edinburgh. It's the most extraordinary, exciting, beautiful city. So I was at the Traverse, and I was coming back flying there at night, and 16-year-old mass murderess girl died, and then coming back. It was a Stanley Evelyn play, who you would know who I'm talking about, as he is a very well-known Scottish playwright, and directed by Mike Ockrent, who was such a brilliant director. And then I was doing my arts and crafts during the day. And I Man at the Top, got 4 lines in Man at the Top, and was taken out and given the Juve lead. And then John Brain was so pleased with the outcome, he wrote another one, and then I got Doctor Who.
Wow. I mean,
and then I did Target, and then I did Play of the Month, and, you know, and then I went into the West End for 3 years. So I cut my teeth the hard way.
Yeah. Did you enjoy the West End though? I mean, must have been something, eh? Like,
it was an extraordinary experience of, you know, learning how one had to be very disciplined, because, you know, you're doing 8 shows a week, plus you're doing a lot of things during the day. You know, you're like the tellies, I did a couple of films, etc. You know, you have tremendous sadness comes into your life. You know, my father died 20 minutes before I went on stage one night, and you do it, because my father would have killed me if I hadn't. He'd have come back, get out there. You know, you have any illnesses, you just keep going. You do not, and you always have to be on time. Because back then, if you were late for the half 3 times, they could fire you, and they fined you. Things are different.
Yeah, totally.
So the discipline that a lot of people don't realize is one of the most vital things in our profession.
You know what's really funny? It's funny that you mentioned the Traverse Theatre, because once upon a time, I was a postman, right? Many years ago, I was a postman. And the street...
Well, she did my mail.
So what had happened was the street where I was working in was the same street of houses which were opposite the Traverse Theatre. There's like those houses there. I delivered there. And one time I actually had an audition for a play. It was Alan Ayckbourn's play, Season's Greetings. And the audition was actually at the Traverse. So what I did was I had a change of gear in my post bag. So once I actually kind of finished around that area, I actually got changed in one of my stairs where I was delivering into my jeans and top and stuff. Put all my postie gear in my bag, and then I kind of put it in the reception area of where the Traverse was. So it was kind of like, you know, like I kind of felt like, you know how like Peter Parker as with Spider-Man. It kind of like, it's like the postman and the actor type thing, you know. That's what it was like. And then I went to audition for the actual, I mean, this was years ago. This was about maybe 18 years ago. And I got the part, and we performed at the Traverse as well, which was great. And it was only for a week where we performed, but actually, like, so I was in the Royal Mail at the time, and I took a
I
second.
love that. It's because when I was doing the arts and crafts program during the day, I had to get an aeroplane and put in my bunches and put on my Girl Guides uniform and my long white frilly knickers on the plane. So I got on the plane and then I got off looking like 16. And I remember my boyfriend at the time was staying there while I was doing the play. And he said, as I used to come and give you this enormous kiss at the airport, people would be going, really? He said,
Brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. But I mean, obviously, you prefer, did you prefer work, obviously prefer work in television than theatre, obviously?
Yes, I do prefer television, but I'm a child of television in the sense of, at a very young age, we were one of the first people to have a television. And it's when my parents realized I actually could see, because up until then, I was a wacky child, you know, that was on her own and played on her own and it had voices and imagined, you know, because and when we got the television, of course, and Daddy said, darling, I got something frightfully exciting for you. And I walked into the room and I went, where? What? He said, well, there. And the television on, I think Liberace was on at the time, a Sunday afternoon concert with Liberace. and I was feeling quite upset. And then as I saw this light and I went closer, excuse me, this is going to frighten the hell out of everybody. Okay. And I went, and that was it. I was addicted, you know, absolutely. I mean, to this day, I confess I'm a television addict. I have the television all night in my bedroom. It doesn't matter what I'm doing, the television, music, yes. Obviously, I was painting yesterday. I had to have a lot of Hendrix and I had to have a lot of B.B. King. That's great music. But I love the television. I love the sound of voices. Radio 4 Extra is good, but there's something about television I just adore. And I've watched it change, you know, being as old as I am and having watched it since I was a little Manning. Can you imagine? I've watched this incredible growth in television and acting and changes, and I just love it. But I also love going to the theatre. I've done some wonderful plays. You know, I've done all the Educating Readers, I've done 8-1, I've done Coward, I've done Stoppard. You know, I've had a wonderful career, and, you know, in Australia, you know, in the Opera House, and here I've done 3 West End shows. You know, having your name up as you walk down Shaftesbury Avenue and you got your name lights and a big cutout of you outside was exciting for a minute. But it's, I think it's strange. I love theatre, but there's something about television and theatre I love to go to as well. But my first love, it's got to be TV.
See, before you get on the stage, do you kind of feel? Did you ever have that feeling, like almost like you're about to jump out of a plane? And then once you're,
no, I have the thoughts of, I want a bus to run over me. I can't do this. I'm dreadful. I'm appalling. This is good. And the moment you open that door onto the stage, you become who you know, that character. So all that goes out the window because you can't have those thoughts when you're playing another character who wouldn't be having those thoughts. I'm totally focused, involved. You know, when you're doing comedy, you have to listen so hard, and, you know, I absolutely love it. And then I come off in the interval. I think, that's it. I'm so bad. I'll never work again. You know, I've never been one of these people who think they're quite good. I just, always feel so grateful that I'm still lucky enough to do with it and maybe still get away with it. But nothing like that would ever stop me doing it, if you know what I mean. Because I love the whole, I don't like rehearsals. I'll be honest with you. I don't like rehearsals. You set something up there that you want to reach. And the time is going by and you're not there, you're not there, you're not there. But the moment you actually have to walk out in front of that audience, something happens. You know, and the longer you do the run for, the more you deeply you take on that character. You know,
you know what? I totally,
darling, I love it all. And audio, which I discovered very late in life, and voices, which I always had, but I never thought anybody'd want them. Jon Pertwee kept saying, oh, you know, you need to be doing. Jon Pertwee said, oh, I think you should be on stage. You should do comedy. You've got a lovely, funny little face. And oh, great, thanks. Well, I do. Another of my boyfriends says, you know why children love you so much? It's because you look like a Muppet. Great, thanks.
Wasn't very nice, was it?
No, lovely, actually. I'd much rather that than somebody saying, oh, you know, you're so pretty. Or that. Then I'd have to keep it up. This way, nothing's expected.
But, you know, but listen, going back to Jon Pertwee there, I mean, obviously, I loved Jon Pertwee. I still do. I mean, when I watch this, like watch him on the TV still, when he appears on the TV, I thought he was absolutely fantastic, you know. Now, what was he like to work with? And, you know, obviously...
I mean, obviously, I've spoken about this many times. He was an absolute dream, especially for a young actress to learn from. I mean, I learned about, you know, because I do think as actors, we don't need to just know about now. We need to know the history of what we do. I think that applies to anything. I think, you know, learning the history of something is very important, and to see the growth and change. So and also what he was able to teach me, and many afterwards, but with Jon, it was very, very special. And of course, I used to hear him on the radio, but I never really made the association of, you know, as a young kid, that this was him, if you see what I mean. And we also just happened to be so lucky. And, you know, that magical thing that all producers and directors hope they're going to get, that you've got the chemistry when you cast people together. You're going to get this chemistry that you can't make it up. You can't act it. That's just that added level. And we just had it from the second that we met. You know, we just, you know, and we were inseparable during work and going to work and going to the occasion. And we just had this wonderful relationship. We used to do all these voices together and make characters. And yet I was learning every day from him and everybody else. But mostly Jon. I mean, he was just the most funny, kind. He could be quite feisty, which is when I was always called in, because I'm good with feisty.
But the thing is, it's like, I mean, he was a fantastic actor, and he's also got that kind of distinctive voice on him, and his son's got the same type of voice as well.
Yes, and interestingly enough, he was basically dismissed from RADA because he had a slight speech impediment. You know, that happened back then. People, you know, it was very different. And of course, it's his voice that's made him, you know, given him such a huge amount of work, and his ability. I mean, he was, what's the name of the actor? The pestle of the mortar of the, Danny Kaye.
Danny Kaye.
Yeah, he doubled for Danny Kaye for a long time.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because they look so alike.
Thinking about it, they do look so alike, especially, I mean, I could really kind of remember, obviously, Jon Pertwee when he was Doctor Who, but to picture him as a younger man, yeah, I could see that. You know, him and Danny Kaye.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a couple of pictures I've seen of them where it's really hard to tell which one's what. But you know, he was such an extraordinary man and a great leader, you know, to have in a show like that. I mean, he really was, I suppose, if you want to take it into the non-reality of him being the Doctor, he had that command. I mean, when he walked into a room, not only did his height, I'm just hoping I haven't got chocolate pudding around my mouth. The Rolo pudding that I actually bit my tongue is still sitting here, and I had a spoonful before I spoke to you.
Well, you've kept a little bit there for later on, you know.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm an actress, be a little bit later on. But he had that wonderful command, and you know, from that he earned enormous respect from everybody. And we were very lucky to have, you know, Barry Letts and Terence, because they were so open, so forward thinking. You know, I mean, you could see the changes that they brought into play. You know, obviously we'd gone into color, but also, you know, Barry Letts fought so hard to get a small amount of budget extra to work with special effects. And, you know, some of the storylines, because Barry and myself were both very, very into the difficulties that we were going to have in the future with the planet if we didn't start acting on it soon. So there was a lot of very forward thinking there. And they, you know, they always listened, because if John and I had a script where the escape was a bit iffy, you know, John would say, right, no, we have to say, and of course, Terence would be in his element whenever you say, right, we need to change. But the lovely thing is we were always listened to. And as a woman, I was listened to. A young actress, I never, ever felt in any way that I was put to the outside. I was involved in everything. And that was, you know, wonderful. I you know, it was truly an extraordinary experience with a really, really great team. And, you know, with all the other, I mean, obviously with Nicholas Courtney, and then bringing in the amazing Roger Delgado.
He was brilliant,
Absolutely, you know, Richard Franklin, John. I mean, it was an incredible team. But of course, you know, although there was a team, John and I worked probably after the first year a lot on our own, away from the actual team. And there wasn't a day that went by where we didn't have the most glorious time, you know, laughter. And we went through all the trials and tribulations that life bring you together, and, you know, really important stuff. I was lucky.
So, you know what I mean? Yeah, it's like one of the things which I absolutely love is, like, I love watching different films and I love watching different TV shows, and I think to myself, I would love to work with him, or I'd like to work with her, you know. And it's like there's some, especially back in the day, some amazing actors, you know, and John was obviously one of them, and he was just someone special, you know. He was a special guy, you know.
He was. I mean, that era, I think there, and from every era, there are some special actors. I mean, when you think past, which we don't have to go into, but people that I grew up with, being in their lives, I've seen some very, very special performances that most people would only dream of seeing. Also spent the time away from cameras and things. So it was a fascinating way for a young girl to grow up. And I think I'm blessed with seeing some of the greatest performers and knowing them. And today, you know, right through to today, I don't live so much in the past. You know, a lot of people say, oh, you must. I have had, every time people ask me this, I say, I have been blessed to go through all these different actors, musicians, you know, artists, everything, sports people. But, you know, in every year, every 5 minutes at the moment, someone new is coming up with something brilliant.
Oh, yeah.
So nothing to me is, you know, this, oh, it was better back then. I can't do that. You know, otherwise we start to turn into those old people in the old days that says, oh, I don't know, what's this bloody Bill Haley people? It's disgusting, it's disgraceful. And that, wriggles his pelvis out. You know, we turn into those people if we live in the past.
Yeah.
You know, now is as divine to me as then.
Yeah. And, you know, it's like what John brought to Doctor Who, it's like you had, other doctors like Patrick Troughton, you know, you had...
they all brought
Tom
magic,
Baker.
darling.
Yeah, and it's like they all brought their own different type of magic as well.
Every single person who's right from the start, when it was actually created by William Hartnell, let's face it, he is the footprint. From my point of view, I don't do this, who is your favorite doctor? Yes, of course you have, because usually it's the one that you grew up first seeing. For me, I have just watched every single actor bring the most beautiful creative magic to the character, you know, and there's always those little things which are very much the same, you know, and those, you know, it's like the Doctor Who has one heart and the actor brings in the second heart, and it just keeps beating, and there hasn't been a wrong un for me. I mean, I don't know much about the older Doctor Who, to be honest with you, because I was living between America and Australia for so many years where we weren't seeing it like we were getting it here. So I just made it my business when I came back to look and see as much of each one as I could, with all my darling, you know, companions along the way, so that I'm always able to show them, you know, how much I appreciated what they did, and you know, be able to tell them how marvelous they all were. But I haven't missed one since it came back again. When Russell, you know, I met Christopher Eccleston. Look at me, suddenly my body language. On my birthday, I am a massive Christopher Eccleston fan as an actor. I mean, you know, I'm not just saying, yeah, he was my favorite. But when he came out of that TARDIS with Billy Piper, I just went, yes, we're safe. It's the most amazing casting, the most amazing opening to it, and I haven't missed an episode since. And I've met them all, and he worked with one of them, well, a couple of them now, but I hadn't met Christopher Eccleston, who I think is this incredible actor. And it was on my birthday, and I got hugged, and he sang happy birthday. Everybody came out of the studios, and they had, you know, what are they, tutor, fluted, you know, the thing blow. I don't know what they're called.
Yeah, I know the ones. It's like you can get them in crackers and stuff. There.
Yeah, that's right. Little wire bits that go like that, and it was absolutely wonderful. I thought, well, that's a nice birthday present for a 75-year-old bat.
Well, here's a question for you. Did you ever meet Peter Cushing?
Who?
Peter Cushing. When he played Doctor Who as well.
Yeah, now that I'm afraid, I'm sorry, everybody. I know, but I'm not a Doctor Who expert. You know, yeah. I love Doctor Who, but I'm not in that bracket of fanship. And so I think I saw the film. There's a lot of things in life, darling. We can, at my age, you just say, well, I think I saw it. But Doctor Who, for me, now this is going to cause everybody. This is only my opinion. Yeah. This is not a statement of fact, because no opinions are. Yeah. It's just me saying I had met Peter Cushing a long time ago at a do somewhere, and I'd known him for all his other work. I don't really remember the Doctor Who film with Peter Cushing, and I'm not sure. Now, this is just you have to be so careful now, don't you? Because gets their knickers in such a twist, because they think that you're making, you know, trying to state a fact. It's not. It's personal. It's called the arts.
Of course it is. Of course it is.
It's the arts. It will affect us all differently. I don't feel Doctor Who is a film. That's just my take on it.
Yeah.
And that doesn't rule out Paul McGann either, who's absolutely wonderful. I'm just saying, for me, Doctor Who is television. For me. Exactly.
You know what? I agree with 100%. I agree with 100%. Yeah. And it's like, I mean, I could remember when I was just a young boy hiding behind the sofa when Tom Baker came on the TV, you know, he was fantastic, you know, but just a lot of the aliens in it really scared the hell out of me when I was just a young kid, like, you know. But it was just great memories from, you know, and from being a young kid to watching Doctor Who then to watching it now. I'm still a fan, you know. I love the show. I absolutely love it.
I love the show. But, you know, if I say, you know, if I say I'm a fan, people say to me, I said something the other day, because I'm a bit flippant, a bit naughty. My children used to say, I'm like, it's because I can't get into all this drama about everything. I can't be doing with it all. You know, there are a lot of things you take seriously, but I can't go into massive things about the arts, you know, because it is so personal.
Yeah.
You know, it really, really is. And somebody said something the other day, and I'd asked a question, and they came back and said, didn't the doctor tell you how the TARDIS worked? And I said, well, yeah, about 40 years ago, and I don't remember the conversation. I'm not an expert. I am somebody who sits there and I let it all happen in front of me. And it's so exciting and it's so beautifully done. And there's so much love in it. I mean, you know, I can't knock any of the producers. They've all put their hearts and souls into it, albeit differently, you know, and it's a hell of a job because you're all, you know, there's so many people who are so passionate that they can get cross about something they don't like, or, you know, I don't notice things when people say, oh, well, you can't possibly do that. Because I don't know. I'm not that, you know, to me, entertainment just envelops me. I don't question it. If it's good, I'm not going to question it. Even if it's not good, I'm just going to ignore it. But I don't question things. I mean, you know, I can go, I'm great to go to the movies with. I poor Peter Irving, I mean, he sort of took it quite lightly. I couldn't speak for 20 minutes. You know, and, you know, I cried in A Fish Called Wanda. I cried in Nuns Run. I mean, go figure. I get terribly involved. I let it all wash over me. And I think very, very rarely do I ever see anything twice because I don't want to spoil that first wonderful moment of magic. You know, I don't need to know any more other than that wonderful experience that I just had. I don't want to sit there and think, oh, well, maybe that didn't work. I don't want to spoil it. You know, and when I watch a film, or even the theatre, I mean, I'm the one that you often hear sobbing in the theatre, embarrassingly. I remember to see a movie together, and we didn't have any tissues or anything, and we were blowing our nose in our sleeves. We were both sobbing.
Oh no.
I get so into the experience. The only thing I can't watch is horror films. I don't know why I want to frighten myself to that extent.
It's funny. It's funny because I was actually talking to Judy Matheson yesterday. She was lovely. She's been on like quite a lot of horror films, and you know, but I kind of thought you'd maybe that would have been one of your things as well. Would you not have liked to have been on a horror film with that?
I did one, but I was also doing a play at the same time. And so I was being driven overnight into these freezing locations. And I didn't really understand the story or what was going on. I think it was called The Haunting of Harry Payne or something. And I was kind of it. I was the one doing it all. But I didn't really understand it. And I don't like horror films. Doesn't mean I don't want to do one. I think doing them is one thing, but watching them, I mean, I've seen films where, I mean, even in the last night in Soho, I had to do this several times. And when I saw the one with the Father Beans, what's that called?
Oh, Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, Barry said to me, he said, well, I'm so glad that we just spent £14 on you putting your head underneath my coat. I just go.
Listen, there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. Going back to when you played Jo in Doctor Who, right? I mean, it's obviously you enjoyed it. You loved working with Jon Pertwee. What was it like for you when you came back as Jo in the Sarah. You came back in the Sarah Jane Adventures, didn't you?
Yeah. Russell T put Jo back with the most wonderful backstory, which was so right for her.
Mm-hmm.
You know, 7 children, 13 grandchildren, and still with Cliff and still trying to save our planet, you know, because that's what the doctors taught her. I just love this. I just tell you this because I think this is so
Of course.
sweet. And it
Fire
shows
away.
you
Fire away.
the beauty of the writing.
Mm-hmm.
Was that when Jo first met the doctor,
Mm-hmm.
he thought she was the tea lady. She got the fire extinguisher and, you know, extinguished his experiment. And then, you know, when she finally persuaded him she wasn't the tea lady, etc., etc. And she said, oh, well, I did this, I did that, I took A-level science. And then one day she asked the question, and you say, I thought you took A-level science, and I thought this was the perfect Jo. I never said I passed.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, when you take where she left in The Green Death, because the great thing about Jo's character, I was given the breath to grow up. You watched her from this just, 19-year-olds, basically straight out of school. She, when you read on things like, Wikipedia, that Jo was this, worked for UNIT as a spy. No, she didn't. Her uncle got there. She'd done virtually nothing except escapology, which she wasn't that good at. And it was lovely. So you saw this sort of ham-fisted bun vendor. And how the doctor was like, no, get her out of my hair, etc., etc. And of course, then you saw bonded, and she learned and grew and started to think for herself, because he'd really taught her so much, and the importance of peace and not guns. And he really taught this girl. And then when she meets Cliff, so sweet, he doesn't want to talk to her. And she keeps saying, well, I don't believe you're the professor. And they had this sort of exactly the same sort of banter as Jo and John had, right, as Jo and the doctor. And then she knocks over his experiment with his mushrooms. And it was lovely because it so beautifully brought back the exact meeting with Cliff that she had with the doctor only that many years. I mean, it was beautiful. So when they asked me, I can tell you quickly the story if you want to hear. But,
absolutely. Tell me.
I'm up in the West End. I've just got back from Australia. Or was it? I can't remember, but I just come back home because truly, however I've lived everywhere else, I've never been as happy as I am in this country. But I did what I had to do as a mother for my children. And without going into all that, we do what we've got to do in life. They're not always the choices you want, but you do what you got to do, and you make it work to the best of your ability.
Absolutely.
And so I just got back, and I was going to see something, I can't remember, in the theatre. And my mobile rang, and I, hello, and the voice said, oh, it's Russell. I, of course, immediately said, Russell who? As you would. Well, because, it's like, when people say, love John, I do know a few. And so he said, Russell T. Davis. I said, oh, hello, darling. What? Anyway, and he said, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm trying to find a theatre. And I said, but I can't find it. And my eyes are too bad, and I can't do those maps on my... He said, don't worry. He's in Los Angeles. He Googled me to the theatre and said, oh, by the way, he said, I'm so glad I can tell you the beginning of the story. This is the end. I like to keep things the wrong way around. Start with the punchline, and I'll tell you what was said. Anyway, so he said, I'm so thrilled that you're back, because that saves us a fare, because I want you to come back as Jo with Sarah Jane. Well, of course, I adored Liz. Absolutely adored her. I thought she was, I did actually at one point, just after she died, I did call her, and I meant it, the quintessential companion, just so remarkable. And that was a deep thrill. And, but prior to that, I'd sitting with the dogs, Oscar and Binbag, and it was a Sunday, and Gary Russell rang, and he said, listen, don't tell anybody. Now, that's the weirdest thing to say to somebody after hello. And I said, don't tell anybody what? And he said, well, I can't tell you. okay. So I looked at Bin Bag and Oscar. I said, any ideas? They went, with no. Bin Bag didn't know much about anything. Anyway, so worse. So anyway, he said, call your agent. So on Monday, I called my agent and I said, hello, darling. I said, I just had a phone call from Gary Russell yesterday saying, don't say anything. And I said, but I don't know what. I said, what aren't I to say anything to? He said, I can't tell you. So I said, well, great. So how can I say something if I don't even know what it is? And then it was the day after that I got the call from Russell saying, I'm so glad you've agreed to do it. But I said, I didn't even know I was being asked.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, you must have been thrilled to come back, though. I mean,
it was. And I said, oh God, I said to Liz, though.
Did it feel the same or did it feel different?
No, that's what I was going to get round to. Because first of all, I said, Liz, people forget that, I'm 103 now, and they all have these pictures in their mind of Joe, I mean, I'm way. And so this little old granny is going to come in. Oh, yes, I was up at the TARDIS, you see, with that. But anyway, so I said, so there's going to be all these kids who are going to be in shock and horror going, what is that granny doing? What is that? I mean, her grandson is really handsome, but what's she doing? And Liz said, yes, she said, I had that feeling. I said, yeah, but you're a little younger in terms of when you started doing it again. This is going to be a real shock. Anyway, I had to get over that, didn't I? And I stupidly took the scissors to my hair because I thought, oh, wait a minute, she's been up these mountains. She hasn't been near a hairdresser's. I'm just going to cut all my hair off with a pair of scissors. So I did, until I got into the makeup room and I looked at Liz, who was just having her beautiful chestnut locks cut. I thought, why did I do that? I was, I'm one of those actresses, I think, yeah, I'll do it. And then you think, no, I didn't need to do that, but I did it. So, haircut that I created myself. But the feel in the studio, because you didn't have rehearsals, rehearse, shoot. And so although we had rehearsals in our day, it was for a very short period of time. We did the filming first. So you did the filming before you even got into the rehearsal. Then we did 5 days rehearsal, and then we did 2 back-to-back in the studio. And it had to be finished by 10 o'clock. There was no overtime. The lights went out and BBC shut shop. So the feeling was the same. There was, and Liz and I had such joy together because we had both been through this early time together, and we'd also shared it at one point with the same doctor. She went on with Tom, and I was fortunate I'd done the 3 doctors, so we both kind of knew all the stuff that none of the others knew back then in terms of the companions. But it was an absolute joy. And, she said to me, it's lovely having Joe's character in this because Joe is so uplifting, and my character, Sarah Jane, can often get quite, heavy in terms of serious. And in comes Joe, which was really lovely. And, as characters, to be able to do that wonderful thing of remembering what we'd been through, and we'd been same planets, etc. And I'm sure that in the future, others will come back to at some point. But it was absolutely joyous. I loved her backstory. And didn't I have the best looking, most talented grandson any woman could possibly want? And he and I had a great relationship because we both loved the same music. So he used to send me all these different things of his. It was really good. And, we did a convention together with Stuart Bevan, and honestly, we were all such a divinely dysfunctional family. But you really do behave like you all belong together. Because I got lost. He got stuck in a pub somewhere. Stuart was nowhere to be found, and I'd missed the train.
Gee whiz. But yeah, but the thing is, going back, like, going to Elizabeth Sladen, and she was brilliant as well. And it's like
they all brought something once again, wonderful to the character. And and I guess some got on better with their leading men than others. I don't know. I never get into all that. and I know, but I do know certain things. But we all had the same love and passion for what we were doing. And I think enormous gratitude been part of something that has just keeps on giving. It really keeps on giving. Love it, love it, love it.
You know what? It's absolutely lovely hearing you say all this, because I mean, when I think about, you know, over the years, all the different doctors that have came on, all the different assistants, and you know, you could just, I mean, when I see you, when I saw you in earlier episodes with Jon Pertwee, and it's like you could just tell, and this is what I think is an observation, you could just tell the both of you loved working with one another.
That's been said by a lot of people over the years.
It shows, you know, absolutely shows.
You know, every now and again, little things he would do. You know, he would just take my chin, and then occasionally kiss me on top of the head. And, you know, there was this, and people said, oh, you know, but he could be so rude to you. I mean, the man was 2,000 years old. He was a kid who was occasionally extremely annoying, because the moment you said to Jo, don't do that, she did it. Because, you know, she's a bit like me, really. You know, like your parents would say, oh, don't put your finger in the socket on the wall because such and such. I didn't want to take any notice until I put my finger in on the wall. I'm that child, you know, and I think that Jo was that child too. And she was so brave and so determined, and, you know, she didn't have all the knowledge or the this or the that, but she had a huge love and respect. I mean, she was the first one to actually offer her life for the doctors in the Demons. You know, I think that says all you need to say about the characters' relationships. But also Jon and I had this just extraordinary bond. You know, it was magnificent. And such a joy every single day. Just, you know, to be picked up in the car to drive, you know, whether it was the motorbike or the car, and to go on location. We had lunch together every single day. Occasionally I'd have to nip off for a quick visit to the pub to see the brig, because nobody ever went with him, and you couldn't buy alcohol at the Acton Hilton then. They didn't let actors drink in the building back then, because I think there was a lot of naughty actors about. But yeah, we just, I don't know, we had this very silly sense of humor and a great passion and love for the same things. And, you know, to have gone on holiday to the villa in Ibiza with Sean and Dahlia and Ingeborg and Jon, you know, I mean, that only happens to actors if you really have a close relationship, that you go on holiday with them as well.
Must have been brilliant, absolutely fantastic. Sounds absolutely lovely by you. It's such a lovely stories you've been telling me there. It's been absolutely lovely. But going away from the Doctor Who now, you've did some directing, haven't you, Katie?
What?
You did some directing.
Oh yeah. You see, a lot of people don't know what I do, because I don't kind of put it out there much, as you probably. I don't.
What did you think of that? How did you enjoy doing that?
Well, I'd always been told by Barry Crocker, who was my partner in Australia, a huge star over there, and he's the one that pushed me, like Jon did, only he pushed me into doing voices. And then he said to me, you really should direct. I said, oh, darling, I couldn't direct. I'd be useless. You know, I always think I'd be useless. But I look, you know, but I thought, oh, well, I'll have a go. And I actually cut my teeth on directing a huge musical called Eureka, which we did the concert tour for to begin with, you know, with the album, with the music. And I rewrote the whole kind of basis of it while I was on an aeroplane to London and then back. I had all of the top musical stars in Australia. That's scary. All the divas. And we were playing a different place every night. and I had to have battles on stage. I also was part of putting the choreography together. That we had to have some Irish dancing. Eureka was all about the gold fields in Australia and the dreadful thing that happened there, which that's something you need to check out, everybody. It was an extraordinary time in Australia. And I also took it was like the Irish dancing, but I wanted to give it a Fosse kick. So I worked on giving it a Fosse kick. So I was doing choreography, as well as directing the whole thing and having to light it in a different venue every night. It was an extraordinary way to cut your teeth. A bit like going into the West End for 3 years. It was tested to the limit. And so that I did. And I won't go into what happened after that, because then it went into the stage musical. Someone else directed, and I have to tell you, they took out so much. And anyway, I won't go into it.
Yeah.
It didn't last. Whoops. It didn't last. Whoops. Anyway, and then I directed Shirley Valentine. And then I directed, Barry and I spent 3 years putting together Banjo Patterson. Banjo, who wrote Waltzing Matilda, The Man from Snowy River, blah, 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 blah. And we did 3 years research, and we did it all with 9 screens and 5 back projectors. So you had this like liquid set, if you like, that went floor to ceiling. It was quite amazing. Directed that. So I've had my fair share of directing.
Fantastic, and it's funny talking about directing, especially like theatre shows and stuff. I had a wee discussion with an actor not so long ago, and how you get lots of actors in big, massive movies, that like, and you get certain actors. I'm not going to name them. Maybe haven't did any theatre. Right. It was like a little kind of debate thing, do you believe that to be an actor, you have to do theatre work?
No, I don't believe, I don't think you can lay down those kind of rules. I don't believe you even have to go to drama school, that's, which people say, oh, I didn't go. Well, if you're working, you're working.
Yeah.
If you're good, you're good. And I learned more on the job than I did at drama school. Way more. way more. Because you're actually having to do it, and you're learning from actors on the move, not no, you don't have to do theatre. Gosh, you look how many Hollywood stars have never walked on a stage in their lives. Sorry, I'm plugging myself in. I'm moving.
That's okay.
You can probably tell.
Okay. That's okay.
But you think how many amazing actors have never been on a stage in their lives? I've lost the plug.
That's okay.
Now we're going into the dark.
That's okay.
I don't have long leads. I'm now going to sit on a chest that will squeak.
That's fine. Honestly, we don't have long anyway, Kate. That's fine. You're all right.
Right, hello. I'm now holding you, darling.
That's okay.
Holding that gorgeous honey-coated voice of yours.
Oh, thanks very much.
Oh,
thanks
is.
It's amazing what honey and water can do,
But no, I think rules. Are there any rules really on that level? No. We've seen too much great talent emerge that's never walked on a stage in its life. We're seeing a lot of people who have been on stage and not made it through into television. Back in my day, when I got the West End show, they had, I think, 3 different women on tour, girls, because I was playing 18. Then they held 2 weeks secret auditions in London, seeing famous daughters and unknowns, etc., etc. Hundreds and hundreds, because to find a very young comedian back in those days, and they'd seen a lot of girls that were in, because there were a lot of those sort of comedy sits on telly then, you know, that era, she says, and not to do with the actors, just those kind of shows. Anyway, and some of them couldn't go from being television actors onto being stage, because back in those days, you know, when I was doing There's a Girl in My Soup and things like that, you know, you were playing 2,000 seaters and things with no microphones. So in a sense, but I always had an enormous voice anyway, because I couldn't see. So I just, if I talked loud, somebody might notice I was there. Because I was very cool. You know how they
it's funny because I actually know quite a few people that are like that, you know. And
yeah, I've just always had a big voice, you know. I mean, any child of 5 or 6 who can do Popeye is scary. You know, and I could. And I had to lift my voice to play Joe. And whenever it dropped, I remember we were filming one day, and sometimes they'd attach the camera to the car, to Bessie, and we'd drive along. And John would say, "We have to go again. She just turned into the lorry driver." Yeah.
Brilliant. I wonder if they still have Bessie. Surely they've still kept Bessie, haven't they?
Well, you know where it is.
Is it a museum?
Not exactly. Well, it's at Bewley. She lives next to Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, darling.
Oh.
The filming, that's not really Bessie.
Right. Oh.
I know, and surely if you're big fans, you can tell the difference just in the size alone. Stuart, honestly, I mean, they're lovely, the guys who have created her and made her, and you know, but I mean, when we were filming with her in Wales, I mean, she broke down. You know, she flooded. Our feet were about 1.5 inches in rusty water. It was just, and we were having to push her, but the real Bessie is a much bigger, more solid darling, and also the memories are embedded in those leather seats, the secrets that Bessie could tell. So you do feel a difference when you get into the other Bessie, because there isn't that history there, you know, of John and I sitting on location eating our lunch, and you know, all the chats while we were driving around waiting for the filming to start in Bessie, you know, that sort of thing.
When you see Bessie,
I'm sorry to burst any bubbles out there, but you know, I'm not gonna lie.
When you see Bessie, you just think of, like, says that if they were starting her, they'd have like a big massive key which they would put inside her from behind and just twist the key around, you know, just to wind her up before going off, like, you know.
But I mean, it was such a lovely creation, and Bessie, I think, is also, for me, has always been one of the stars of the show too.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
absolutely. But you know what, though, it's just, I mean, I'm actually, you know what I'm going to do after talking to you? I'm actually going to go on YouTube to take a look at some.
No, I'm going. I thought you were going to say, after I've been talking to you, I'm going to take a Valium and have a large drink and a lie down.
No. Maybe have a beer later. We'll see how I feel. Maybe have a beer.
Yeah, no, I've been back since. There is a couple of photos which I have put up over time of me in the real Bessie at Bewley. But she's very happy. She has her own person, her own butler looking after her. As I say, how much for Bessie to be alongside Chitty Chitty Bang Bang? I bet they have a few chitty chat. I'd love to hear. Actually, that's a lovely thought, isn't it? Can you imagine Chitty Chitty Bang Bang and Bessie having a lovely conversation at Bewley in the motor field?
Brilliant. Do you want to know something, Kate? Honestly, you made my day coming on here today, honestly.
Oh, listen, you've had lovely guests, and I was delighted to do so. And I'm so thrilled for you because, you know, without being, you know, I love the squeaking chest I'm sitting on. It's not me, dears. I know I'm old, but I'm not actually squeaking yet. I've got enough medicine that I should. But you know, I was thinking back to when for years, I was the voice of UK TV in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, they gave me my own chat show.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thrown in the deep end. I mean, Lenny Henry, Simon Pegg, a lovely, I'm dreadful with names, Wright, who directed that, one of my Shaun of the Dead, and
Yes.
also Last Night in Soho, John Plowman, Petula Clark, all of the Z Cards people, footballers' wives, Cleo Lane. I mean, I can sit here and just sort of go on and on and on about the amazing people that I had on the show. It was an honest do, but you know, it's a different form, isn't it? From you know, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
So
you know, getting from, you know, Robertson Green, finding out, you know, what actually created him into becoming an actor, you know, actually finding out, as you do now, about people, about the things you don't read about. You know, it was just amazing. I loved it. And you're doing a brilliant job, may I say.
Oh, thanks, Katie. You know what it's like. I mean, obviously, I've did a bit, obviously not as much as you. If I do, in my whole life, if I do the likes what you've did, I'd be I mean, I'm happy now, but I'd be very chuffed, you know, like doing, obviously every actor has a different path, you know, like it's a different journey. But I mean, I think you're fantastic. You're such a talented lady, you know.
Oh, thank you. That's really kind. But honestly, I am just so grateful that I have been so lucky to do what I do. And I've never wanted any more than just to have, you know, work. I've never wanted, oh, I'd like this. I want to be a star. I never, ever did that cross my mind. I lived with enough of that.
Yeah. And
I love being, you know, the freedom of, I love the fact that I've done so many different kinds of roles that most people don't even know that I've done, where I'm almost unrecognizable. I just like being a jobbing actress. I'm always grateful. And I don't want any more. I just want to keep working.
Yeah, of course.
You know?
Of course. And the thing is, I mean, you're you're a lovely person as well. And, you know, it's great talking to someone, not just talented, but just a nice person as well. It makes a big difference, you know. I feel lucky to know you, actually, you know, so.
I feel very lucky to know you too.
Oh, thank you.
Because, you know, I do think that you are, along with, you know, and so many people, I am so lucky that I have this very positive Twitter following. I try to give every single person that I can some care, and I've helped a lot that people don't know about, who are going through very difficult times. I help them out privately. And I look at my Twitter, and I've never had anybody be vile. And once somebody said something, and I just sort of said to them, what was it? I was saying, oh, that's right. I just said at the end of something, I said, that's my opinion, not a fact. However, if you have a different opinion, you know, just express it, you know, quietly and cohesively. There's no need to be angry, because angry is actually rather boring.
Yeah.
And that person then tweeted, I was so charming about not liking something. And I thought, great, you know, and it's through Twitter that I have made so many friends, through Doctor Who, even more friends, you know, obviously in the business. And, you know, because Doctor Who has given so many people the desire to go into the business, to write, to act, to produce, to direct, to, to make the costumes and so on. But it's also been so strong and so supportive in helping people going through extremely difficult and traumatic times. And I don't think there's anything else I can think of that does it to that extent, like Doctor Who does. It truly is very magical. And it's such an important program, I think, to so many people around the world. And I'm blessed to have been in it, but more than anything, to have the following that I've got, that I keep saying it, simply the best. I have no complaints about Twitter, because obviously anybody who's not very nice doesn't want to come anywhere.
Well, it's like you're always going to get one or two people on Twitter, that are just going
but I honestly I've never had anybody really, vile, ever, never. I think I've blocked 2 people in my entire Twitter life. It's not bad going, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think after a while, you kind of get to know who your followers are, and when you get to know when you have a good following, you get some good followers. I mean, every week, obviously, when I do the Happy Friday thing, I'll absolutely love doing that, because
I love getting it.
Because I love including likes yourself and lots of
I usually do it locally because it's easier for me to speak than it is to even though I have to write right now. Somebody's paying me money to write a story for a real book for a real publishing company, because I write my life story, as you know. I don't want to live it again. I've lived it once. It's like going to see a movie. Oh God, not again. But I do hope one thing, though. Now I don't normally plug things, but I do hope, if they ever come out, if the guy who has to edit them is ever the same again, the 3 Paul Mars books with the 50 voices were supposed to be out in October, but I think possibly the editor is having a lie down and is chewing the carpet right now. 1,700 pages of 50 voices by me would be enough to make anybody go insane. But no, as you know, I like to actually speak my Friday usually, because I find it a lot easier. Because with my typing mistake, it's terrible. I have to, because I can't see what I've written.
Yes.
So even if autocorrect comes in, I don't know what autocorrect has said. And the number of times, with the little emojis, you've got a laughing one and you've got a heart. The number of times something terrible's happened to someone, and I put all the truly caring thoughts I had, and then I'd press the laughing emoji.
Yeah, I've done that before.
Oh, and because I can't see, I don't know. And so now
it's an easy thing to do. It's an easy thing to do.
It's easy to do, but it's even easier to do when you can't read what you're writing. I truly, when I send messages, I can't really read what I'm writing. I'm hoping that what comes out from my head is going to my fingers, but I know that it doesn't always, because I see some results. I go, oh, bum, did I really?
Listen, honestly, well, all I can say, Katie, is, I'm going to have to come off now. All I can say is, listen, thank you so much for coming on and giving me your time, and just some of your stories have been fantastic. It's been brilliant.
Well, thank you. And I'm so proud of what you're doing. And I'm really pleased, truly, to have you in my life via Twitter. I would love to be able to work with you one day.
I would love to as well. I would love to as well.
And you could play my son in a horror movie.
No, I'll do that. I'll do that if you want. I'll do that if you want. You know what's funny? I never, ever thought I'd do anything like this, where you get to talk to people and obviously do like a kind of interview thing. I never, ever in my life thought I would do this, because I love acting, but this is something different. But I'm really enjoying it. I'm really enjoying it.
Well, I was going to say, what we have to remember is that, when people come up to you and they say, what kind of acting do you do? And I go, well, anything that is offered to me, you know, basically. And we have to remember that, like I said, oh no, I would never be able to direct. I said exactly, I can't do a chat show. I can't, you know, I wouldn't do voiceovers and get money. I can only do it to make you, you know, things like that. It's amazing, really. All this is part of what we're capable of doing. And it's, you know, there isn't, you know, to me, you know, and people say, well, are you a stage actor? Are you this? I'm anything that I can have a jolly good go at.
Absolutely.
And that's what you've done. And it's brave and it's paid off because you have a natural instinct towards it as an actor. So, you know, you should give yourself a nice little pat on the back because that's it. And I'm going to go and give you a little kiss because I think with my crooked mouth here.
Listen,
I can feel it dropping there.
well, listen, Katie, honestly, you've made my day today. You really have made my day, big time. And, you know,
keep doing it and you'll get lots of lovely people who are possibly more sensible than I am. But no, you really just keep doing it. And if you love it, even more reason to keep doing it.
You know, my jaws are actually just really kind of a little bit sore just with laughing and stuff. Just some of the things you've told me has been brilliant. Absolutely fantastic.
Well, there's a lot more. We'll do it again one day.
Awesome. Brilliant. Katie, thanks so much
me
for
while
coming.
you can, darling. I'm getting older now.
You've got a lot of years in you. Don't you worry about that. Okay, my darling. You take care.
Big love to you, darling. And truly, you know, just keep doing everything you're doing. And you exude the most beautiful warmth. You really do.
Thanks so much, Katie. Honestly.
Thank you.
You take care of yourself, okay?
Thank you very much for having me. I've had a very nice time. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Do I get a goodie bag when I go home?
Well, you just never know, you know. I might just okay, Katie.
Darling. Thank you.
Okay, bye for now.
Bye, sweetie. Bye.
Bye.